Here, I mean, Michael Brooks had a really good video on this, obviously. Rest in power, Michael Brooks. Here.
Hi.
Hi.
So my first question, it says on your Twitter that you're Jewish. Am I getting this right?
No.
Is it the right Twitter?
On my Twitter bio, it says I'm Jewish?
No, but like in your tweets. I don't want to be wrong.
I have Jewish background. I'm just trying to think of...
Okay, so as someone with a Jewish background,
yes.
How do you feel about Bernie's plan for Israel, especially as someone concerned with foreign policy?
I love it. It's an absolutely necessary. My Jewish values teach me to oppose apartheid.
Okay. Could you elaborate, please?
I mean, there really isn't that much to elaborate on. I mean, has anybody ever been not only to Israel but also to the? Have you been to? Have
the West Bank.
Have you been to the West Bank? Have you been to Gaza?
Yep.
You went to Gaza.
I went to the border.
Oh, okay, but not to Gaza.
You can't be in Gaza.
Well, I know people who've gone to Gaza. You could definitely go to Gaza. So for me, my politics are built on a base of, economic justice and actually really like anti-racism, as in some ways as distinct from some of this sort of woke stuff in a way. But when I was already, I grew up, I was pretty connected to left politics, so I always knew growing up about the travesty that was the human rights situation there. And I knew that people I admired, like Nelson Mandela said, South Africa is going to not be properly free until the Palestinians are free. In 2006, I believe, I read a piece by a guy named Tony Judt in the New York Review of Books, who was a really important Jewish scholar. And he just said, the argument was that, literally this is childish. The idea that you have an ethno-state or a religious state, if you're committed to any type of broad-based social, economic equity and civil society, it doesn't work. No matter how justified, right? Of course there's justification because of Jewish history for Israel. There's justification for Kurdistan because of Kurdish reality. There's justification for Pakistan. It's notable that Israel and Pakistan are both disasters. Israel not in the sense of, look, if you're a European Jewish background, you have a nice life there. If you're not, you are, even inside 67 borders, not a fully equal citizen. And the situation in the West Bank is, it is literally Jim Crow-like, and Gaza is, it's just an atrocity. So that's not something that anybody could reasonably ask me to support. And I understand, there's some actions from some Palestinian groups that, we can condemn. In fact, those have not even really been in any way seriously in play since 2003. And when we talk about, look, and the apartheid word specifically is both used by people who were crucial in ending apartheid in South Africa, like Desmond Tutu or Ronnie Kasrils, who served as intelligence minister under Mbeki, who I've interviewed. And the other main people who use the apartheid word are Ehud Olmert and Ehud Barak. So it is what it is. And I don't support second-class citizenship and occupation and sieges for anybody, no matter who they are.
Are you not concerned about the binary between either condemning Israel entirely, being also a stance that a lot of very strong and notorious anti-Semitic people agree with, versus seeing this as more of a complex issue where it is wrong what's going on, and there's also a...
It's cute. It's cute that she's remember, this conversation is being had many, many years prior. So it's important for you to understand and acknowledge, this is not a conversation that's being had after October 7th. This is not a conversation that's being had on October 6th. This is a conversation from many, many years prior, before, I think very close to before Michael Jamal Brooks unfortunately passed away. I don't know exactly what year this is from, but I mean, it was uploaded March 9th. Oh, it's from Lafayette College, College on Thursday, February 27, 2020. This is like right before he passed away. Yeah. So I've brought this clip up many, many times over, and I think it's pretty instructive. What he's about to say right here is perhaps one of the best ways to talk about the at least the moral complexity of Israel. Okay, to those who say Israel is complex, like Israel's a complex issue, it's not, and you will understand why. Michael Jamal Brooks was on the Majority Report alongside Sam Cedar back in the day. He is he's always been a leftist. He wrote for Jacobin from time to time. He had a podcast with, ironically, Anna Kasparian on the Jacobin. He was a good friend of mine and a wonderful leftist figure that was also just as obsessed with making a mockery of the IDW, the intellectual dark web, for those of you who do not know. And also simultaneously was a phenomenal voice in international, like American foreign policy, phenomenal voice in representing the interests of the United States of America, or I mean, covering and criticizing the interests of the United States of America. He's a great dude. Let's not bring up my impact on his show in particular, where I asked him about dry jacking. Okay. Let's not. You don't have to always bring that up whenever I'm talking about him. You don't have to always bring up what I said on his show. All right, let's continue.
Way to do this that Israel still exists and is supported?
So it's not a complex issue. That's the big thing. It's super simple. There's one group that has enormous power. It's the most powerful country in the Middle East. It's backed by the United States. It acts on another population of people with total impunity and is never held accountable for anything. So there's no symmetry in the relationship, period. And just as like a thought experiment, IDW people, if we know that if somehow a population of Jewish refugees ended up in West Bank and Gaza, and an Arabic government in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv had an open-air prison in Jewish Gaza, which they bombed with white phosphorus, they killed civilians indiscriminately, and they had no provisions for medicine. They had an embargo that blocked food, that the electricity wasn't running, that there was an over 48% unemployment rate, life expectancy and malnutrition statistics were horrifying. One of the major policymakers in this hypothetical Arabic Palestinian state said, we need to put those Jews on a diet. In the West Bank, there was another Jewish area where there was a little bit more autonomy, but there was regular Arabic settlements where they pulled up the Jewish farmers' foods, they terrorized them with rocks, the security forces broke children's bones, and they couldn't drive on their own roads. We'd all have no problem understanding what that was. So there's nothing complex about it. The second part of your question, it's a pure asymmetry relationship. And the question is rights or not. So that's it. It's not complicated. The second part of your question, at this point, there's always going to be crackpots who are anti-Semitic who condemn Israel. That's not what drives the movement, particularly in the United States. If you work around most people who are concerned with this issue, it's actually populated with a lot of Jewish people. The real question we have to ask is, why is it that AIPAC is hosting an information minister for Slobodan Milosevic? Why is it that there's relationships between the Israeli government and far-right parties in Europe? Why is it that Benjamin Netanyahu's son is posting borderline alt-right memes? Why is it that Israel is an alt-right state, even though it is from the descendants of the victims of one of the greatest crimes in history? That's a serious question, and that's inseparable from the racism of the project, which goes back to the first part that we have to solve. But thank you. Shalom.
Anyway, yeah, he did cook. I mean, but it's like, he didn't just like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like putting an issue into very simple terms, because it is very simple. It is not complex. It's only complex to those who don't understand it, and many have been conditioned into seeing only one side of the issue. And it's only complex to those who do understand it and try to desperately reframe it and shelter their own conscience from feeling like they are on the wrong side. People only say that it is complex either because they've only seen it through like an incredibly filtered lens of like relentless pro-Israel propaganda, or they see it as complex because they have seen both sides and cannot reckon with what they are defending. So they look for a way to justify Israel's abhorrent actions. Distorted lens rather than filtered and distorted. The only way you see this as a complex issue is if you just don't, you can believe in a number of different things, sometimes both, sometimes all of the above. You don't believe that Palestinians are human beings. You dehumanize Arabs and you dehumanize Muslims in particular. Or you, I don't know. I mean, that's the major role here. That's it. Like, they are scary and need to be met with an unimaginable amount of force. That's usually what it is. You either believe that or you believe might is right. And Israel has the capacity to destroy Palestinian lives and is, doing what it needs to do. Did that October 7 chatter change his mind? I don't remember what his username was. Or did he just say October 7 and just like leave the chat? What was it? DanFan69? Yeah. Okay. Well, he's like, all right, we live to fight another day in his mind. He's like, I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say. People see Palestine's retaliations as brutal and not actually trying to free their people. They think resistance has to be perfect. Yeah. They do not see the actions of the Palestinian militancy as like desperate attempts at reminding Israel that they are human, that they are there, that they cannot be pushed into a corner any further. They see it as people who are motivated simply by Jew hatred. That's it. And if you feel that way and you dehumanize them over and over again, all of a sudden, like, what demands could they have? Their demands are just killing every Jew. Not just even in Israel, just all across the board, killing Jewish people everywhere. As an outsider, it's hard to tell which information is true or not. Everything seems like propaganda. You need to you need to understand. Propaganda simply just means communicating a message that is, one-sided. It's all propaganda. Everything is propaganda. What I'm doing is also propaganda. Now, the difference is you can make truthful propaganda that is agitative in nature, or you can lie. Many people just assume that propaganda is a lie no matter what, and that's fine. That's why I don't usually choose to fight that fight and be like, no, propaganda doesn't always mean lies or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But yes, I will always tell you, many others will lie to you and say that they do not have a dog in this fight. They do not have a biased perspective. I am very honest, maybe to a fault. I feel like those who claim that they're neutral on any issue are lying to you. They want to have the higher ground. So they just claim that they're neutral. So you listen to what they have to say and take it for granted as though they are being objective. They're not. I tell you what my bias is. I think that a grave wrong has been committed in the inception of the Israeli state. Okay? Hansi watches cute boot confirmed. I don't know what the fuck that is. Anyway, what is this? My basic model of student protest is that in general, students don't know shit about what they're protesting against. They do it because it's cool, makes them feel like they're part of something important and want to be with their friends. This is probably right. Most people don't form political opinions through deep examination of the issues or reasoning from first principles. It's more like picking some particular fashion label or a way of dressing, especially for younger people who face more peer pressure. That's, yeah, dude, totally. They're just opportunists. All these students just want to fucking be cool. Yeah, well, guess what, dude? Sucks that Israel can't remain cool among the hearts of the youth. If that's how silly your analysis is, and you refuse to reckon, even if not every single fucking student is like running around and can immediately off top dome give you the exact fucking UN charter violations that Israel is committing on a fucking daily basis, you are supposed to be more educated. Why are you so cowardly? Why can you not do the fucking reading? You are supposed to be the educated guy. I'm an educated dude on this issue. I have this perspective because your audio is like buzzing. There's noise every time you speak. Yeah, it's because there's landscapers. The thing is, you can shit on students all day, every day, even though they are on the right side of history on this issue. But it is up to you as an educated political commentator to do the reading. So if you've done the reading and you found yourself in a bind where you have to offer support to a state doing unconscionable things, you just basically you just deflect away from actually addressing the issue at hand, and you yell at students, and you rely on the memes, you rely on the meta, you do meta commentary on the protests and how silly they are because it's children that are doing the protests. Fucking address the matter at hand then. You're a political commentator, aren't you? It's very, very stupid and very cowardly. These people are cowards. They can't address it. They can't tackle it head on because they know their position is not only unpopular, but also morally abhorrent. So they just fucking cling on to random shit and try to tackle the aesthetics as best as they can. It's very, very, very cowardly. Trying to redirect the conversation. And it makes it harder when the students actually show messaging discipline and consistently communicate what the problem is. And they do it through the most knowledgeable vectors within their ranks. They use media liaisons. They use people who are very knowledgeable to represent the broader group's opinion on the matter. And that really frustrates the media because the media wants to clown on these students. The media wants to fucking make these students look foolish. They want to make them look like the protests are trendy. They want to make the protests look like they are anti-Semitic. So when they can't do that, they still argue against that position anyway. And they do everything in their power to basically turn around and act like at the top of the hour there isn't a 3-minute ad break when there is one. Now we're going to move on to the protesters in Israel before we get back to the college campus mania that